Hello, every pony. Scar89 here, once again with another fan fiction reading. Today I'll be continuing Magic and Mayhem and Murder, Oh My. Fourth chapter by Invictus. I tried recording this earlier, but it was so noisy in the house I couldn't even read it. But it's settled down now, so without further ado, Chapter 4. 2 plus 2 equals murder. Yep, that's some math skills you got there, by the way. Okay, anyways. Hey, Sparky. Sparky. Is this your revenge for the jewel box? Nah, I'm way over that. Now I'm just paying it forward. Twilight sighed. For the last time, Shawn, it's just called Canterlot Castle. No pony has ever heard of, what was it? Minas Tirith? And I doubt the princess will be open to renaming it. If I do remember that correctly, I believe that should be Lord of the Rings, I believe. I'm not so sure, so don't count me on that at all. Anyway, with a shrug, Shawn hopped off the carriage after her. You guys need to fire who's ever been naming your cities. I mean, come on, Ponyville, Canterlot? Well, I'm sorry, our naming conventions don't meet your high standards. Applejack rolled her eyes and as she'd been doing for the past 10 minutes of this particular conversation. Apology accepted, Applejack. At least you've taken the first step, admitting that there's a problem. Now we just need a lot of ponies with a lot of spare time to get a lot of signatures. Twilight sighed again, while the farm pony fell behind from having stopped to slap a hoof on her face. Face hoof fail. Okay. Look, I'm just saying, just because everything in this universe is sickeningly cute doesn't mean you can't throw some badass name around every once in a while. I mean, just look at Captain Regis over there. He may be cute as a button, but at least he has a semi-acceptable name. Actually, he'd make a fantastic talk show host. Shawn was sure he'd spoken more than loudly enough for the stallion to hear, but the captain, as Shawn had taken to calling the stoic soldier in his own mind, seemed to have a lot of practice at holding a poker face. The captain was leading them through a series of back alleys and tunnels, studiously avoiding any main street or avenues with large crowds. So far, the group had managed to attract very little attention from the denizens. The few they'd encountered quickly began The few they'd encounter quickly being started into quietly, panicked submission by the gruff guard pony. With a third and probably not final sigh, Twilight looked back at the rest of her friends for help, finding none. Her staunchest allies so far, Applejack, had apparently given up and was hanging back. Rainbow Dash had flown off, too impatient to follow with the rest of the group when she already knew where they were headed. Rarity was keeping her pace, probably unwilling to jump into an argument she had openly stated was nonsensical. And Pinkie Pie was, well, being Pinkie Pie. More specifically, she was eating cupcakes out of the cartoonishly overfull saddlebags she'd brought along to Twilight's Cargrin. How is she carrying all that? Shawn wondered for the umpteenth time. He'd secretly tried to lift one of the bags while they'd still been sitting behind the counter at Sugar Cube Corner. But had been unable to even budget. Apparently it was a mystery to the rest of the mares as well. So he'd resolved to not think about it, which was causing him to think about it. At least he didn't have to lug all those gifts he'd gotten in Ponyville through the city streets. Pinkie had magically found room for them in the bag. A commotion in one of the alleyways that intersected their path broke him away from his thoughts. There were a lot of ponies crowding the small alleyways, each trying to get a look at whatever was in the center. While the group of royal guards in shining golden armor tried vainly to break up the gawkers. He wasn't sure, but Shawn thought a lot of them looked like they were about to be sick. The captain looked torn. Shawn figured the dour stallion's every instinct was shouting at him to step in and impose order on what could, if one were feeling charitable, be called a serious... Wait, what? Shawn figured the dour stallion's every instinct was shouting at him to step in and impose order on what could, if one was feeling charitable, be called a serious cluster. I'm not saying that word. A cluster freak for a crime scene. For a moment, it looked like the captain's order to escort the princess's guests would win out, until a panicked charcoal gray unicorn and guard Regalia spotted him and galloped over. Captain Agus, sir. Thanks Celestia you're here. Their little group stopped as the captain paused to address the fellow guard. What's the matter, Private? Why haven't you gotten the citizens cleared out? It's another one, sir. The gray pony looked at the verge of tears. The captain's eyes grew wide and his mouth formed into a panicked grimace. That's the third one this month, he whispered, apparently not realizing it was loud enough for Shawn to hear. That may or may not have had something to do with the fact that Shawn was now almost directly behind him. What's your name, Private? Private Fleethoof, reporting for duty, sir. All right, Fleethoof, send a runner to headquarters requesting backup immediately. And make sure they send some pony to let the princess know that their guests are going to be a little late. The captain turned to look at Twilight, not showing the least bit of surprise that finding Shawn was right there as well. I apologize, Miss Sparkle, but I'm going to need to use your escort to clear the area and establish a perimeter. At least until reinforcements arrive. Please wait here while you're with your friends and the alien until then. What's going on, Captain? Did something happen? Twilight looked worried, shooting uncertain glances at the crowd. The stallion paused, obviously carefully considering his. That doesn't make any sense. You can't put two fleas together. You can't put two leads together in one sentence, I don't think. The stallion paused, obviously carefully considering his answer. There have been a series of incidents in and around the trading district. Nothing serious, ma'am. We'll just get it all sorted out quickly and get moving. Seriously, that's the most obviously rehearsed yarn I've ever heard in my life. There's no way she's going to buy the... Oh, good! Twilight giggled in relief before trotting back to her friends. It's okay, guys. It's just a minor delay. If you didn't hear that, that was me slapping my forehead with my palm. Okay. Shawn stared at her, trying to comprehend what had just happened. How could she not recognize such an obvious crime scene? He considered the possibility that he was overthinking this. Twilight had basically told him there was little to no crime in Equestria, and his detective instincts wouldn't be properly calibrated for a utopia full of polychromatic synthetic ponies. I don't know what that word was. Okay. Chuckling at the thought, he was turning to leave when the wind shifted and the smell hit him. The ponies in the crowd didn't just look sick. Many had obviously been sick. Below the stench, however, was the sharp tang of something he'd never expected to find in this fantasy land. Blood. Captain Aegeus Fidlis. I don't even know what that word is. Please, someone tell me how you pronounce that word. How you pronounce that name. Captain, I'm just going to call him Aggies, okay? Captain Aegeus Fidlis. I give up on that name. Didn't think of himself as a grizzled veteran. Not to say that he wasn't, but he'd like to think that he'd still upheld the ideals that drove him to the Royal Guard with the same fervor that he had 20 years ago as a private. Even joining Princess Celestia's personal guard and being awarded a hero's title had not distanced him from his original purpose. Protect every pony in Equestria from any threat, even from themselves if necessary. Sorry, my mouth was dry, so I said necessary. Anyway, it was in fact the inspiration for the surname that he had been granted to him by the Sun Princess herself. Aegeus Fidlis, ancient equestrian for Loyal Shield. I don't know. Ancient Equestria for the loyal shield. What? I don't get it. I just don't get it. It was to the great frustration and sadness then that three of the mini ponies under his protection had died in the last month, under his watch no less. It didn't matter that every death so far had been ruled a suicide. It was all the royal guard could do to prevent a panic in the city. The population of Canterlot was rightly concerned. In the entry of the royal guard's records, dating back to the Battle of the Sun and Moon when the royal archives had burned down, there were a total of 4 recorded suicides. The last one on the night of Nightmare Moon's escape before the elements of harmonies reverted the monster into the Moon Princess. It wasn't the death. It wasn't the deaths that never. What? It wasn't that deaths never happened in Canterlot. Put that many ponies together in such close quarters, and accidents were bound to happen now and again. It was a sad but true fact every member of the Royal Guard had come to terms with in their own way. Suicide, however, was a whole other matter. No pony could be prepared for something like that. I don't know who's thinking this. Oh, yeah. For in 1,000 years, then all of a sudden, it's 3 in a month. Oh, I get it. 4 in 1,000 years, then all of a sudden, it's 3 in a month. Aegeus' thoughts were interrupted by another nervous guard. The Pegasus mare had apparently been trying to get his attention for some time now, but he'd been too busy pondering the feeling that in his gut that there was more to this than a rash of chronically depressed merchant ponies. What that something was, he could only guess. What is it, Private? Sir, Private Whitney Ring reporting. Spit it out, Private. She looked back over her shoulder at the growing... Wait, what? I have no idea. What? I think that's a girl. What is it, Private? Sir, Private Wintry Wing reporting. Spit it out, Private. She looked back over her shoulder at the growing empty space around the unfortunate ponies' bodies. Is it really okay for you... I can't read today for something. Is it really okay for your sidekick to be going over the body like that? Captain Aegeus... I can't pronounce the word! I'm just gonna say Aggies. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say Aggies. Captain Aggies stopped, trying to process what the relatively new recruit had just said. I'm sorry, my what? Your sidekick, Koto Holmes. I didn't realize you worked that closely with a talking ape, sir. Awesome. I would slap my knee, but I can't. It's underneath this desk. Okay. Wintry Wing balanced an impressive feat of a bleach-white Pegasus. Wait, what? Wintry Wing blanched an impressive feat for a bleach-white Pegasus. But Aggies was well aware that lesser ponies had fainted at the look that currently graced his accountants. He made a note to recommend her for accommodations on the basis of bravery in the face of imminent violence as he stomped back into the alleyway. Shawn slipped the tarp back over the face of the dark brown earth pony sprawled on the ground before him. Oh, sorry. I don't know. I still had Aggie's perception in my mind for some reason. Okay. Shawn slipped the tarp back over the face of the dark brown earth pony sprawled on the ground before him. Some pony had at least closed the poor colt's eyes before hiding his body from the general public. It hadn't taken much to get past the cordon and get a closer look at the scene. The young mare he'd talked to was obviously new, both of her jobs and death in general, which was why he'd targeted her in the first place. He'd been helping along by her immense confusion at being addressed by what she'd probably thought was a monkey someone had found and dressed up in a suit. Monkey suit. Shawn figured he'd still had another couple of minutes to look around before she got her act together enough to go confirm that he was supposed to be there. By that point, he'd be, hopefully, safely hiding behind the, hopefully, impenetrable wall of Twilight and her friends. Taking note of the position of the body one last time, Shawn looked up at the fifth floor window the pony had fallen from. It was hard for him to tell whether the broken neck or the busted skull had been what killed the colt. Normally he'd bribe Woody for the information, but that wasn't wasn't really an option at the moment since his corner friend was currently in a different universe. Wait, who's Woody? Oh, Woody! What am I thinking? Sorry, he's the autopsy dude from Psych. I don't know what I was thinking. Still, this wouldn't be Shawn's first time working a case without police resources. He made his way around the body, trying to eyeball the angle of the fall. The pony was several feet away from the building, back legs toward the wall, with shards of glass from the shattered window spread out among him. Some of it crunched under the sole of Shawn's new boots, and he walked past the victim's head, making sure to avoid stepping in the blood splatter. Spatter. I don't know what I was thinking. Okay. This wasn't an accident, he muttered to himself. Of course not. It was a suicide. Shawn ignored the gruff voice coming from behind him as he kneeled to get a closer look at some of the glass shards. Maybe... Wait. Oh. Indeed. Again the voice breathed hotly onto his neck. Okay, seriously, Lassie. You need to start carrying breath mints or something. It came to Shawn at the moment that Lassie had not made the interdimensional trip with him. This fact left only two possibilities. Either the gruff police pony detective had found a way to haunt him while still alive, or Shawn's evening was about to get off to a very, very bad start. Being careful to avoid making any sudden movements, Shawn slowly got to his feet. Until now, he hadn't realized quite how big the captain was for a pony. The stallion only had to tilt his head up a bit to direct his steely glare into Shawn's eyes. Despite his slight height advantage, Shawn had never felt smaller or more fragile in his entire life. Okay, sorry. I'm inclined to ask what you're doing trampling all over my evidence, alien. But I'm even more inclined to skip straight to the part where I toss your face first back into the alley. The guard pony advanced, wings out, as if he had needed to look any bigger, and head down in an aggressive posture. Shawn could only let out a whimper before the stallion lunged forward, and his world became a vibrant shade of purple. He looked around frantically, fighting off a sense of vertigo as he realized he was now standing behind an outraged Twilight. Had she just teleported him? Captain Aggies Fiddless, what do you think you're doing? The captain, now facing the purple mare, grunted in irritation before shooting Shawn a frustrated glare. Your monkey was messing around with my evidence, Miss Sparkle. I was simply going to explain to him why he shouldn't do that. Sorry, I messed up that line there. I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. I'm reading too fast. Okay. Shawn here was probably just curious, and what I saw looked less like explaining and more like an attempt at outraged violence against a personal guest of the princess, Captain. The stallion winced at her emphasis on the official rank, visibly calming him as his wing folded themselves back onto his body. I apologize, Miss Sparkle. This suicide business has us all on edge. His eyes widened as he seemed to realize what he had just said. For her part, Twilight had turned sheet white, finally having spotted the tarp-covered body behind the guard pony she'd been chewing out. Suicide? Shawn stepped forward, in a rare moment of seriousness, tried putting a comforting hand on her withers. I don't know what withers are. Her sudden shift from white to green at the moment would have made a chameleon proud. Excuse me for a moment, Twilight muttered as she galloped into the adjacent alley, followed closely by the unpleasant sound of a pony vomiting her stomach. Captain, I know this isn't the best to... Not a word from you, chimp. This is all your fault. The low intensity of the captain's voice belied the barely restraining anger behind it. With a huff, the large Pegasus turned to greet the reinforcements he'd asked for. Shawn found himself standing alone in the intersection of the alleys that comprise their group's path and the crime scene. The sun lay low in the sky, too low for the orange light to reach past the city wall and illuminate the quiet back street. Suicide, huh? Maybe Shawn didn't fully understand the rules of the idyllic world he had found himself in. He'd barely been there 2 days, and he had already seen many of the physical laws he'd previously understood as immutable broken nearly a second thought. What? I'm going to read that entire thing over again. Maybe Shawn didn't fully understand the rules of the idyllic world he had found himself in. He'd barely been there 2 days, and had already seen many of the physical laws he'd previously understood as immutable broken with nearly a second thought. However, as Shawn made his way further down the path to where the rest of the mares waited, he came to a conclusion. Whether on Earth or in Equestria, some things always added up to foul play. That would actually be a good place to have stopped this chapter, but there's still more. I'm saying these chapters were very long. Okay, continuing on. I'm not stopping until I finish. I promise. Having gotten the news about the delay, the princess had opted to play it safe and push the dinner back by an hour. Ironically, this resulted in the groups arriving half an hour early. Shawn found himself in a large, luxurious waiting room, anxiously waiting for the right moment to broach his suspicions with Twilight. Broach? However, the mare had refused to speak with anyone at all since she'd seen the body. Inadvertently, her friends had tried to get her to talk about it, only upsetting her further. Sighing, Shawn decided he should try to get some air and set out to find a maid. He'd found himself pleasantly surprised at the relaxed attitude of the servant ponies in the castle. Either they were exceptionally well trained or strange. Talking creatures were a fairly common occurrence. He suspected it was... I have no idea what I just read there, actually. I'm not sure. I'm going to try again. Sighing, Shawn decided he should try to get some air and set out to find a maid. I don't get it. He found himself pleasantly surprised at the relaxed attitudes of the servant ponies in the castle. Either they were exceptionally well trained or strange. Talking creatures were a fairly common occurrence. He suspected it was a mix of the two, from what he remembered of what Twilight had told him about the foreign relations with the Griffin Empire and the United Diamond Dog tribes. It's actually the other way around. It's actually a Griffin tribe and a Diamond Dog Empire. Just saying. You don't know what I do on my off hours, or where I go. Anyway, the United Diamond Dog tribes. Equestria's two nearest neighbors kept active embassies somewhere in the capital. Eventually, some pony was kind enough to direct him to the gardens, which supported a ridiculously convoluted hedge maze, several decorated statues, and an enormous sundial near the entrance. It was all very grand, and Shawn contemplated trying his hand at the maze before deciding he would not have enough time before dinner with the princess. The princesses. Whether by accident or design, Twilight had completely failed to inform him as to what to expect during the meal. Would it be formal, with 24 rules specifying how he should hold his spoon? Would he insult his only ticket home to find the first time he tried to take a bite of an appetizer? Would they even have spoons, for that matter? He's worrying about spoons. So far, he'd only seen them eat by taking the food directly from the plate with their mouths. Would he be expected to do the same? He wasn't sure he wanted to repeat his pitiful performance in the bobbing for apples game at the party. Disconsolate, Shawn stopped and picked up a flat red pebble, bouncing it up and down in his hands a few times before chucking it into a nearby hedgerow. Oh! Or maybe throw a nearby hedgerow. Oh, or maybe through a nearby hedgerow. Shawn grimaced before calling out through the apparently not so impenetrable wall of green. Sorry. It's quite alright. A voice melodic in a sweet and metronomic, metronomically sort of way called back. It could have belonged to a young mare or another mother in her prime. There was a sort of unknowable quality to it. Oh no. I'm afraid he's about to meet someone important. As if he'd forgotten what it sounded like the moment he stopped hearing it. You okay? Shawn stepped closer to the hedge, curious. Don't... wait, what? Who's saying this? Oh, don't worry. I was merely surprised. I must admit that does not happen very often. Whoever the mare was, her easy laugh made it clear she had a good sense of humor. Pausing, it occurred to Shawn that he was speaking to a new pony without all the awkwardness and questions that had so far come with every first encounter. He found it refreshing, even if he did occasionally enjoy seeing ponies' reactions to the first time he'd spoken. Kind of like the Doctor when people first get into the TARDIS, I guess. It's bigger on the inside. Oh, I so love that part. Okay. The other voice had paused as well, seemingly lost in her own ruminations. And what brings you to Canterlot Castle, gentle colt? Sightseeing, Shawn responded quickly. Sightseeing? Never seen a castle before. Thought it was about time I did. Maybe even catch a glimpse of the princesses, you know? It occurred to him he had no idea what they looked like. Oh, and what distant land do you trail from that you've never seen a castle before? Her tone of voice gave way the joke. In fact, he'd noticed a slight undercurrent of concealed mirth in everything the mare had said. He wasn't sure what she found funny about it, yet he still couldn't help laughing along with her. Ponyville, actually. Well, oh, that's not so far away. Did you grow tired of viewing it from afar? Shawn cursed himself. He hadn't known the castle was visible from the little town. At least she'd provided an easy out. Pretty much. I meant I've never seen a castle up close. She paused to chuckle again. You know, it wasn't that long ago that I visited there myself. Can I ask your name, gentle colt? Crap! He hadn't thought that one through. Quick, say something! Anything! In a panic, he mumbled, Horsey McHooferton. Damn it! I'm sorry? Louder. I said my name's Rosie Plankton. Nice save. Oh, that's a very nice name. Rosie? Are you a gardener? It's why I'm out here instead of inside. How about you? My name or why I'm out here? How about both? Shawn was grinning. Sorry, I can't get over that. That was too funny. Horsey McHooverton. Okay, sorry. Okay, sorry. How about both? Shawn was grinning, though he kept glancing over at the sundial. He'd need to head back soon. Well, sometimes I like to visit the gardens to meditate. I have a stressful job, one that a lot of ponies count on me to do, so it's nice to get away from the formalities once in a while. Oh-ho, so I guess I'm talking to some sort of big shot, eh? Does it bother you? The question was strangely serious. Oh, sorry, I was adjusting my headset. Okay. The question was strangely serious, so he actually gave it some thought. Nah, I've never really put a lot of stock on authority. Shawn found himself leaning against the hedge. I've met a lot of ponies who acted like they were important, who demanded respect from everyone they met, but they always ended up just isolating themselves. For a moment, he thought the pony was going to say something, but she only cleared her throat. So he continued. You know, I've always thought that if someone was important, I mean, actually important, they wouldn't care as much about how others treated them, because real respect shows through no matter how people act around you. He stopped and chuckled. I'm not really making any sense, am I? The voice was quiet for a minute, before answering wearily. You cannot comprehend how much sense you just made, Rosie. They both laughed comfortably for a short while, before something occurred to Shawn. Hey, wait a second. You never told me your... Oh my! Is it 8:30 already? Where did the time go? I'm not saying that word either. Oh, crap! Never mind. Sorry, I gotta go. I'm late for a very important date. If he was lucky, Twilight would still be too preoccupied with her thoughts to notice when he got back. He was decidedly not lucky. Or he was decidedly... I don't know. He was decidedly not lucky. In fact, it could be said that he had somehow managed to be not lucky for the power of 6, as that was how many set of eyes were glancing daggers at him when he burst into the room, huffing and puffing from the run through the long hallways. Well, Fluttershy wasn't really glaring as much as looking decidedly disappointed and uncomfortable, which, on further analysis, Shawn decided was somehow worse. Shawn, where have you been? We're almost late. Twilight was fuming. Better than when she's sulking, I get... sorry. Better than when she's sulking, I guess. Wait. Almost? Princess Luna... Wait, who's saying that? I think that's Twilight. Princess Luna was held up raising the moon. If she hadn't, we wouldn't have been the first foreign diplomat... I'm sorry. My dad is talking on the phone downstairs, and there's noise that you probably can't hear, but it's distracting me. Princess Luna was held up raising the moon. I need to do that in Twilight's voice, sorry. Princess Luna was held up raising the moon. If she hadn't, you would have been the first foreign diplomat in 100 years to snub the princess by making them wait on you. Shawn took a quick peek outside, finding the sun had fully sunken below the horizon, leaving a beautiful twilight. He spelled twilight wrong. It spells twilight. Twilight sky in its wake. But we're not late, right? Well, no, but that's not the Sparky, don't be a fascist emperor penguin. No harm, no foul. That's the rule. But what Shawn gave her his best raised eyebrow until she wound down into sullen muttering. At that point, one of the servants started waving a white-clad hoof, signaling for them to enter. You know, something just occurred to me. I'm reading really slowly. And I'm sorry for those people who are just, not patient enough to listen to my reading. Stepping toward the Daleks. Stepping toward the doorway, Shawn called back. Come on! You're gonna make us late! The rest of Twilight's friends were too busy trying not to giggle to notice the small smile that played across her face for a moment. Good. The seven of them entered the dining room. Well, Shawn was pretty sure it was a dining room. Had he stepped into a Harry Potter movie when he wasn't looking? No, way too colorful. Beauty and the Beast? Less talking furniture, more magical lighting. In either case, the room was gigantic, as if designed to be a banquet hall, brightly lit, predominantly gold or gold-plated, with intricate filigranes of various colors and details, and tassels. He shuddered, rarely either being the only one within range or possessing super pony hearing when pertaining to fashion. Tassels. He shuddered, Rarity, either being the only one within range or possessing super pony hearing when pertaining to fashion, shot him a strange look as she took her place on a cushion at the round table. Shawn was thankful she had refrained from asking him about it. His irrational fear of tassels was surpassed only by his slight less irrational, but far greater, fear of pointy objects. Neither were subjects Shawn liked to talk about. Neither were subjects Shawn liked to talk about, seeing as how not even he really understood how or at what point they had developed. They simply have. Sorry, I'm trying to adjust myself in a chair to make myself feel more comfortable while I read. Okay. Once again, Shawn found himself in the same table height conundrum that he had back in Sugar Cube Corner. He was about to say something to Twilight when he heard a clunk. Looking back, he saw Pinkie Pie giving him an ear-to-ear grin, having just set down what appeared to be the very same stool she clobbed together for him back then. He would have felt more touched at the gesture, had he not been so busy trying to figure out where in the hell she'd pulled that stool out from. And again, I say they do have chairs. I've seen chairs. What do you think they sit on in the episode Hearts and Who's Days? They're sitting on chairs and a whole bunch of other stuff. They have chairs, people. Our servant pony suddenly stepped into view, offering a platter full of tiny sandwiches stuffed with what appeared to be grass, which Shawn declined. They spent the next few minutes like that, nervously waiting for the arrival of the princess and filling up on tiny snacks, or in Shawn's case, just nervously waiting. Twilight sat to his left, while two empty cushions lay directly to his right. They were far more embroidered than the others, and were the only two left open when the rest of his pony acquaintance had taken their own seats. Being a detective by trade, it didn't take him long to realize what that meant. Sparky. Twilight ignored him, continuing to slowly chew on her tiny sandwich. Fine. Twilight! The mayor gulped it down and gave him a distracted half-smile. Yes, Shawn? Why am I sitting next to one of the princesses? That would be because Princess Celestia herself requested that you sit at her left hoof. I imagine she'll want to chat with you. Shawn digested this for a moment, looking down at the empty plate in front of him. At seeing this, Twilight's smile widened. You're not nervous at meeting the princesses, are you? Eyes narrowed. Shawn returned Twilight's gaze. He was cut off at the large double doors at the other end of the room. He was cut off as the large double doors at the other end of the room swung open and a small blue unicorn colt stepped through and to the side. Presenting Her Majesty Princess Celestia, Dawnbringer, and the High Regent of the Court of the Eternal Sun, and Her Majesty Princess Luna, Guardian Star and High Regent of the Court of the Ethereal Moon. All rise. Shawn, Twilight, and the rest of the ponies stood as two large shadows slowly stepped through the grand entrance. At first, all Shawn could discern about the two figures was that they were tall, one more so than the other, but both considerably above the eye level of any of the other ponies he'd met so far. As they stepped further into the light emitted by the floating magical spheres dispersed throughout the room, more details became clear. For one, however, Shawn wasn't looking at the details. He was not fazed by the sheer regal splendor of the two sleek winged mares of brilliant white and spectral blue. Nor did he pay any mind to their manes. One a soft rainbow of light, the other an endless field of stars, both flowing with an unfelt breeze. Interesting. No, what caught his full and undivided attention were the long, majestic, and extremely pointy-looking horns they sported. Fighting a rising sense of discomfort, Shawn serendipitously poked at Twilight, and the other two rulers of Equestria slowly made their way through a double line of bowing servants. Wait. Sorry, there's so much noise downstairs. I can't focus. Fighting a rising sense of discomfort, Shawn surreptitiously poked at Twilight as the two rulers of Equestria slowly made their way through a double line of bowing servants to their small table in the center of the room. "What is it?" she whispered, never taking her eyes off the approaching princesses. "Do you want to switch seats? I kind of want to switch seats." "What? Why?" "Me and pointy things. We don't mix." Oh, sorry, that it says we don't mix so well, so I'm guessing it's supposed to be we two don't mix so well. "What? Are you telling me you're scared of Princess Celestia's horn?" I'm not scared. I just don't trust her not to impale me accidentally." In the back of Shawn's mind, one of the bits currently not panicking, he noticed that both he and Twilight were starting to whisper faster and louder, escalating strange looks from the rest of the table. Excuse me. How can you? I have a horn too, and you haven't been scared of me. Your horn is fat, tiny, and dull. She's got a pike, I think that's supposed to be spike, sticking out of her face. Spear, Shawn. You mean spear. Oh, it is pike. I guess it is pike. A pike has a hook sticking out of the back. Only if you're fishing with very unusual bait. That doesn't make any sense. My horn is not fat. Oh, God, don't tell me that. Like a thing with you guys. Wait. Oh. Okay. Oh, God. Don't tell me that's like a thing with you guys. You know what? I take it back. I refuse to be held responsible for the impending bout of hornorexia. Hornorexia. Fear of horns. Shawn, now is not the time for this type of foolishness. Would you prefer a different type of foolishness? I don't even know what that is. Before Twilight, who was now sweating bullets, could respond, the princesses finally reached their seats at the table. Shawn tried to scoot his stool over a bit, but found that Twilight's rear hoof was firmly planted on its side. "Princess Celestia, thank you so much for inviting all of us to this wonderful dinner. We're all very honored to be here." Twilight spoke through a tight smile. I'm happy you were able to make it on such short notice, my little ponies." Celestia's own smile was beatific. Anyway. I am glad you were able to attend as... Oh, that was... Okay. I am glad you were able to attend as well, Twilight Sparkle," the other princess added in a strange voice. Shawn was sitting perfectly still, under the assumption the pony goddesses worked somewhat like a T-Rex, when something about the white princess's voice struck a chord of memory in his head. He looked up to find said sun deity smiling at him. I got their voices mixed up. Sorry. "You must be Shawn Spencer. I feel like we've met before. With how much Twilight Sparkle has written about you, it is a pleasure to meet you in person." She did? I mean, same here. Or no, sorry, that's a question. Right. She did? I mean, same here? Flustered, Shawn found that his hand had somehow managed to point itself at the princess. He imagined it was something like trying to shake hands with the Queen of England, only if the Queen was taller than him and a winged unicorn. "Oh, Shawn, you're such a kidder." Oh, that's right. "Oh, Shawn, you're such a kidder. Isn't he such a kidder, princess?" Twilight cut in, hair now completely in disarray. It's quite all right, Twilight Sparkle. Celestia shook her head, an undercurrent of mirth in her voice, before tapping his hand with her hoof. The way she did it with the way she did it, she somehow managed to retain the grace and dignity of her office. The rest of the ponies looked on wide-eyed, while Twilight apparently lost motor control of her jaw. Pinkie Pie was happily stuffing her face full of tiny cupcakes. Shawn was also frozen, having forgotten all fear while a familiar phrase ran laps in his head. It's quite all right. It can't be. The princess held her smile as she continued. I must say, Shawn, you don't look much like what I expected. By Twilight's description, I hadn't pictured you quite as dressed up. He nodded over to Rarity. You can thank her for that. Ah, of course. I should have recognized her work sooner. It's been all over Canterlot since her last visit. The Fastinetia preened at the praise, while the rest of the ponies seemed to relax a little bit. Pinkie Pie continued barreling through a year's supply of hors d'oeuvres. Gaining confidence from the pink pony's casual attitude, Shawn continued, I gotta say, Your Majesty, Celestia, she interrupted, this is simply a shared meal between friends, not a formal affair. I think it's supposed to be call me, because it says call us Luna as well. I think it's trying to... Okay. Call me Luna as well, please. Shawn grinned, his suspicions gaining traction. Celestia and Luna. Got it. Anyway, I was just going to say that you don't look anything like I expected either. Oh? And what were you expecting, Shawn Spencer? Okay, first of all, if we're going to be first names, then it's just Shawn. Or Slick, or Superfly. Any of those will do. Celestia's smile widened, almost imperceptibly. Oh no! I can't say that word. I can't say words sometimes. While Luna looked at Twilight as if asking for an explanation, the purple mare clearly had none and was back to sweating at the increasingly informal tone of the conversation. And my dad is laughing like an idiot again. I'm sorry if you can hear him. It's distracting me, so I can't read, and it distracts you because I can't read. Informal tone of the conversation. Okay. And second of all, I was expecting some pony like them. He gestured at the rest of the non-royal mares around the table. Not giant horned Pegasuses? It's Pegasi, Shawn! Twilight cut in. That. The seemingly stoic Sun Princess cleared her throat, not quite covering the laugh that slipped out. We are all called alicorns. Oh, we are called... Not all, sorry. We are called alicorns, he nodded. I guess Horned Pegasus is a bit of a mouthful. It is at that. I don't even know where alicorn even came from. Can someone tell me? I know what alicorns are. In fact, my OC is an alicorn. But I still have no idea where they came from. Like, who came up with the name? Why not Peccacorn? Or Peccacorn or Unisys? No, Peccacorn sounds cooler than Unisys. Unisys sounds bad. Sorry, continuing on. It is at that. The food arrived, cutting the conversation short as the servant ponies presented a veritable banquet of what Shawn assumed were equestrian delicacies. There was a brief moment of awkward indecision on his part, which was broken by Celestia simply levitating several portions to her plate, an unsurprisingly golden glow suffusing whatever food she chose. And so the meal went. Various greens were consumed. Pleasantries were exchanged. The story of Shawn's arrival was recounted by those involved, and a surprisingly relaxed and pleasant evening was had by all. At least until the very end, when the conversation switched to his job back in his world. Twilight had mentioned you were a detective in her letter, an investigator of sorts, As I understand it, the Sun Princess addressed him over dessert. Yup. Shawn was working his way through the most delicious banana split he'd ever tasted. He's eating a banana split. Okay, sorry. I also saw a report. I also saw a report from Captain Agus Fidlius complaining about your behavior at the scene of a certain incident earlier this evening. Sorry. Shawn nearly choked on a piece of banana, having to take a drink of water to suppress the coughing fit. The princess waited patiently for him to finish before continuing to speak, though more quiet. It saddens me terribly when a tragedy like that occurs, as I care deeply for every one of my little ponies. She smiled sadly. I am old enough to know that I cannot be there for every single one of them in their hour of need. Yet I cannot help feeling personally responsible. This is exactly what Twilight was trying to tell me, Shawn realized. 3 in the last month. Must be like tearing her up inside. And she probably doesn't even know what really happened. Princess Celestia, please. Celestia, that was no suit. Recalling Twilight's reaction, he lowered his voice further. Suicide. Her eyes widened. You think it was an accident after all? No. That pony was murdered. A plate crashed to the floor. The servant mayor, who had been taking his half-finished dessert, staring at him in horror. Actually, every single set of eyes in the room was now quietly trained on him. Well, crap. Captain Agius Felix sat behind his desk, pondering the panoply of notes and reports spread before him. Diamond dogs causing disturbances in the trade district that no pony would testify to. Griffin diplomats increasing the number of honor guards stationed at their embassy. A marked increase in the number of fatal accidents happening in unexpected places. The three suicides. All of it had started roughly a year ago with the official appointment of the ambassador of the United Diamond Dog Tribes. Which, again, I say, they're not tribes, they're an empire, while the Griffins are a tribe. I'm just saying. He couldn't help but feel that it was all connected somehow. I don't know who's saying this, so I don't know what kind of... I'll just do a guy voice. Okay. Captain Agius, sir! The captain looked up from his desk, grateful for the distraction from his grim thoughts. What is it, Lieutenant? Lieutenant Gladius stood at attention in front of his desk. The charcoal-gray unicorn mare, it's a mare, so it's a girl, was one of the only 4 currently living ponies who had received a hero's title. In his opinion, her valiant actions during a Diamond Dog rebellion in the south, which had eventually led to the establishment of their embassy in Canterlot, had merited her the high honors. We have received a priority one. We have received a priority 1 message via teleportation, directly from Her Highness Princess Celestia. His eyes must have disappeared into his helmet. And the message? It states that Royal Guard headquarters will receive an unscheduled visit from the Princess of the Sun and Moon regarding an important matter. Interesting. It goes on, sir. The captain waited for her as she paused, seemingly trying to puzzle out the rest of the missive. I'm guessing that's the message. And he spelled it wrong. It states that they will be bringing guests. Oh, no. One of whom you are familiar with, though he is new to the city. No. And that you should prepare to present all relevant information regarding the recent rash of incidents, as you will be working closely with their guests until such time as the investigation into the matter is completed. Lieutenant Gladius shot him a questioning look as, from his point of view, the whole room took on a distinctive shade of red. Thank you, Lieutenant. Dismissed. He forced the words past a stiffened jaw. He seemed to recognize the signs of his impending fury, quickly stepped out, closing the door behind her. Every guard pony in HQ heard the magnificently loud crash that followed, though the only visible reaction was from the quartermaster, who made a note to have a new desk delivered to the captain's office. End of chapter 4. Whew, okay, that was a long chapter. I've been recording this for almost an entire hour. Holy crap skis. Ugh, this is like my longest video I've ever made. Oh, because of that one chapter. Gosh. Okay. I'll record another chapter or another story. You can go listen to that. Yada, yada, yada. But until then, I will see you guys later. Pony on!